Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Well, I hope you're having an amazing day. It is December the 2nd, and you are listening to Search for Signs. Now, this is your first time ever listening to this channel. I do want to welcome and thank you. But let me tell you a little bit about what we're about, okay? We have over 300 videos where we talk about the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. Through these videos, we talk in greater depth and have a slightly better understanding about who and what Maitreya is. We also talk about why are the Masters returning now to the everyday world during this historical time. We also talk about the many miracle signs that have been going on all over the world in all walks of life for decades and decades that point to the fact that the one awaited by all the world's religions, maybe, possibly, there's a strong likelihood, is already here, living in a modern city, and has been for over 40 years. Now, Benjamin Creme, who passed away not too long ago, was the person who initially brought this information to the public and had spoken on TV, on radio, published books, magazines, and so forth through the Share International groups, and had really let the world know that Maitreya, the world teacher, was already here and has been since July 19th, 1977. But he also made an announcement back in January of 2010 that Maitreya finally, after a long wait, gave an interview on TV in the United States in front of millions of people, and then started to travel the world giving interviews in different countries: Russia, Australia, Brazil, Mexico, China, Japan, countries in Europe, and so forth. And assumingly has been doing so even after Benjamin Creme passed away. Now, he's not claiming to be the world teacher or the Imam Mahdi, if he's speaking to a Muslim audience, or the Christ, if he's speaking to more of a Western audience. He is just being introduced and presenting himself as an ordinary person who's deeply concerned about the problems that we've created and the solutions that humanity can do, the very simple solutions that humanity can do to solve those problems. Now, in and of these videos, the most important thing that you can take away from it, I think, is to really look at what is Maitreya's biggest priority for humanity at this time. Well, it's create true and lasting peace. Maitreya puts it like this: without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. And without peace, there could be no future for humanity. So let's get on into it. I do have some questions and some comments to cover in this video. And if you have a question you want to ask about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, might I suggest just posting your question as a comment. And then I usually do an audio response in the next video. But if you want to take the time to email me, you can email me at searchforsigns@mail.com, and you can do it that way. All right, let's get on into it. Let's see. It is very unfortunate that Benjamin Creme passed away 4 years ago in 2016. But at least Maitreya said before Benjamin Creme's death this encouraging speech: "When I tell you that it is very soon you will see my face and hear my words, this is the truth." Oh, thank you. You're very kind for that. I do wanted to, you've kind of inspired me to read something from Maitreya that also touches upon the need for creating peace. This comes from Maitreya when he gave this message through Benjamin Creme back in 2008. He says, "My friends, listen carefully, for I bring hope to you all for an end to your troubles, for a new life for all those ready to accept the need for justice and peace. The lack of these two, justice and peace, is the major obstacle in your path today. The way to justice and peace is easily solved. It requires only the acceptance of sharing. Share and know the future. Refuse to share, and there will be no future for man." So Maitreya, even though he's speaking on TV, very simply, hasn't, I think, started to really speak with a greater sense of urgency. Maybe he has, I don't know. But in the not-so-distant future, he will start to really speak with a sense of urgency that humanity needs to solve these problems right now. Because if we don't, we're going right off a cliff, and it's too late, right? Especially the environmental problem. But it's something to consider too, for those of us who are very concerned and deeply concerned about the environment. When Maitreya says, without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. Without peace, there could be no future. He's also including the environmental issue into that. Because really, until nations learn to trust one another, we're not going to be able to solve even the environmental problem. So sharing is the key. It is absolutely essential that we take a look at it. If you have any interest in this, definitely look at the Marshall Plan. Go to Wikipedia and read about that. In the last video I put in, I interviewed Adam Parsons from STWR, Share the World's Resources. Go to sharing.org. They're helping to bring about awareness of sharing and so forth, but we need to start doing something about it. Now, let's see. Next question. I am waiting for the message that Maitreya or one of his disciples will send on the tongue and hand of messenger Tayana Moksha on the 19th of this month, December 2020. Gary, why don't you believe in Tayana Moksha as she does Benjamin Creme? Well, my question to you is, why do I need to believe in her? You know, if what she says rings as truth for you, then listen to her. If it adds value to your life, by all means, take what she says and use it. I'm not telling you not to listen to her. You know, so, you know, and if you listen to all my videos, which I can't assume that anybody has. Me, my own mother hasn't listened to all my videos. So, you'll never hear in any of my videos where I am encouraging people to believe in what I have to say, or, you know, begging people to believe me or so forth, you know. So I'm just presenting this information for you to consider and you to consider only. If you find truth in it, then great. If you don't, then thanks for coming. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal, right? But I would kind of push it back in the reverse way toward you about this. I mean, as I said, why do I have to believe in what she says? You know what I'm saying? Now, the thing that I want you to understand is, just because somebody says that they receive messages from one of these masters or Maitreya does not necessarily mean that they are, you know. And if we could go back 20 some odd years ago, when I first heard about Benjamin Creme and I picked up one of his books and I started reading it, the thing that turned me off initially was he was making claims that he had direct contact with one of these masters. And I had read Alice Bailey books before then. That resonated as truth for me. And when I started reading from Benjamin Creme, it didn't. And it took a while before I started to look and listen to what he had to say and trust him, because I started to see the value in it for me, you know, and a lot of it came from the articles that his master wrote through him. And I started reading, I was like, wow. I mean, it's on a whole other level from what I was thinking it was. And so then I started to listen to him with a greater open mind. But even with Benjamin Creme, I mean, he would tell you that I didn't agree with everything he had to say either. You know what I'm saying? And he doesn't agree with everything that I had to say, believe me, you know. But it doesn't mean that what I think that he said, there wasn't a lot of truth to it. But the only reason why it resonates as truth to me is because I have a heartfelt response to what he's saying, based on you know, so I see it as truth in that way. But you might not, right? Now, so many people make claims that have contacts with any of these masters, you know, that I almost would demand proof from them before I would start to listen to them. In fact, actually, Benjamin Creme demanded proof from his own master. When his master first contacted him telepathically, he demanded proof from him, and his master sent him a picture of himself. And he said he had it in his desk, a picture of his master. Alice Bailey demanded the same kind of proof from her master. So they didn't just take it on face value that they were hearing, you know, a master. And so Benjamin Creme's master trained him for, you know, years and years and years to, you know, go through this deglamorization and disillusion process to where he could communicate with them very effectively. And he said that a disincarnated entity or somebody's subconscious would not put them through that type of rigor like that a real master would. So most people who channel these masters didn't do any specific training to get to where they were. They just woke up one day and whoop, they're channeling. So I just, like I said, I mean, to me, it doesn't resonate as truth for me, but that's just me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe, man. You know, and like I said, if it gives you hope, even listen to her by all means. Alrighty. Next question. Have you seen Maitreya speak on TV as a normal person? I've seen him as an abnormal person on TV. No, I'm just kidding. Helen, I might be the last person that is a part of the people that we're all discussing and asking questions on Search for Science to actually see Maitreya on TV. And I'm fine with that. Let me tell you why. Because I don't have any of the news programs on TV. I just really watch my news through the internet, like YouTube and so forth. And I haven't looked. I don't wake up every day and go, I want to see if I can see Maitreya on TV and try to look for somebody that appears to fit the bill. Have I seen him? Maybe. I put forth this as an hypothesis, and it really is just a hypothesis. I don't even know if it's true or not, is that if Maitreya is on TV, and I do believe what Benjamin Creme says is true, and he's not claiming to be Maitreya, but he's speaking to millions of people around the world, then there is a pretty good chance that a lot of us have already seen him and just not recognized him. There have been times that I've been at a lecture and Maitreya was there and I was the last one to recognize him out of the group. And it wasn't until, because he might have walked right past me and not said anything to me. I mean, Benjamin Creme's master said, so far from the general notion is the Christ that he could walk into a room or a crowd of people and be totally unrecognized. And so it's hard for us to imagine that, and we all have, even people who have heard this information for decades don't really realize that Maitreya can do that. He doesn't appear to be how we all think he should look. And even, dare I say, those of us who have heard this information from Benjamin Creme for years and years and years, he obviously looks very different than what we're thinking. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, have I seen him on TV? Very possible, but I don't think so yet. And I'm pretty well sure that I'll be the last one because I don't even think about it, man, really, to be honest. Now, he did tell me one time back 12 years ago, you'll see me on TV real soon. And we're going to change the world together. So eventually I'll see him on TV. And real soon for Maitreya is, a couple decades. That's why I always say, if he ever comes up and says, hey, man, let me borrow $5, I'll pay you back real soon. Man, you ain't getting that money back for a long time. I'm kidding. But, the other thing I wanted to mention, too, is, because this also kind of goes in line with one of the other questions that I was going to try to answer. It says, is there any evidence of the approaching Maitreya on the day of declaration? The most important thing that any one of us can do is see the priorities of Maitreya, see the urgency that is, and in our own way, act upon it. You know what I mean? Whether it's helping to create peace, helping to create justice, helping to bring about awareness of sharing, or even working with various groups to solve the ecological problem, for instance. But it could be anything that you see that you personally can do to help with Maitreya's priorities, to do it. And then once you start doing it, you start to notice that you forget all about your own personal troubles, your own personal things, but you also forget about waiting for Maitreya. Not to speak about myself about this, but, I started doing these videos almost 2 years ago. Right? Well, there's nobody else doing these, and I've encouraged my friends who have known about this information for years to do the same thing, and nobody wants to do it. But there's obviously a need for it because people keep coming back and asking questions, and even people who disagree with me a lot of times are like, well, I didn't agree with Benjamin Creme, or I thought Maitreya was the Antichrist, but I don't anymore, that kind of thing. So that is my little way of helping out, and it's not a massive, in front of millions of people kind of way helping out, but it's the best I can do. Does that make sense? So you just find what you do and do it. And then when I'm putting up these videos, to get back into talking about me for a second, I forget all about the fact that Maitreya is not on TV. I'm not disillusioned about the fact that it's been another year has come and gone and we haven't seen Maitreya yet. And then I can go another year, because I know eventually we'll see him. I've already seen him enough times in my life to know that there's truth to it, right? But, does that make sense? So it's more important to listen to, to go on the Share International website, look and see what Benjamin was saying about Maitreya's priorities, and even listen, to Maitreya's messages about his priorities to serve and so forth, and just finding what your heart is calling you to do and do something about it. And then you'll see him on TV whenever you see him. And then you'll be so far ahead of the curve because you've already started to do something to help, because the only thing he is going to do is offer solutions for us to solve the problems. He's not doing anything for us. I've said this a number of times in these videos, to look for Maitreya or any one of these masters to solve the problems that we've created is very similar to looking at the birds or the fish and saying, hey, when are they going to solve the problems for us? They're not solving the problems because they're not the ones that created the problems. We, as a humanity, created the problems. Every single one of us is guilty of it. But also, every single one of us is capable of helping with the solution to those problems. So, hopefully that helps. All right, next comment. Really enjoyed the content. Thank you, Gary. Well, thank you, Sonia. I really do appreciate the encouragement. It's so rare that I get that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mean to sound like a negative Nelly or anything like that. But no, I take it on the skull a lot. But my mother told me my whole life that I have a really hard head. So there you go. All right. Next comment. And this was in response to, I was talking about the 5 disciples that were handpicked by Maitreya to make his presence known. And each one of them was in a major city. One was in New York. Benjamin Creme was in London. There was one in Geneva, one in Darjeeling, and then one in Tokyo. And I had mentioned that Benjamin Creme said that the one in Tokyo was a woman who started to believe that she was Maitreya. And this person says, I believe the female that met Maitreya that you mentioned is Supreme Master Ching Hai. I don't know. Was she in Tokyo? I guess that would be the question that I have to ask. When I looked her up on Wikipedia, she was Vietnamese, so I don't know. But could very well be. I couldn't answer that question. All right. Next and final question. I believe Maitreya is telepathic. And Robert, you are right. He is telepathic, just like all these masters are. And eventually every one of us will be as well. So you are correct in that. Have you ever telepathically communicated with him? In the sense that Maitreya worked through Benjamin Creme and the Master Jesus when he was a disciple, no. At this moment in time, there's no way that Maitreya could do that. I'm not evolved enough to do that. Those disciples, like Benjamin Creme, like Krishnamurti, like the Master Jesus, just like the Buddha, the Gautama Buddha was with the Buddha, they have to be able to hold their attention naturally at a very, very high level, because they would already be very, very advanced disciples, the most advanced of the advanced disciples, so to speak. If you were to look at the hierarchy as the army, right, where, let's say Maitreya is the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, right? Then he's got all his generals who are the masters, and then he has all his colonels, let's say people like Benjamin Creme and, those kind of things, and those kind of disciples, all the way down. You would find me being the one that actually, their drill sergeant won't let them hold on to a real gun. I got to hold on to a wooden gun because they're afraid I'm going to shoot my foot off or something. I am so far down on the totem pole, that kind of stuff. I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, as of right now, no. But the one thing that I will say this, if you look at the hand of Maitreya, any one of us can create a mind-to-mind contact, and you can ask him for help. And I have looked at the hand, and I've even visualized the hand in my mind and asked him a question about something. And it doesn't come right away, but a lot of times it might come day or 2 or 3 later, and there's just a little thought that just kind of goes across my mind. And when I look at it from a different, it's like, wow, it doesn't sound like something that I would just come up with on my own, whether it was him or not. But they can communicate telepathically with people who aren't as advanced as somebody like Benjamin Creme by planting a little inspirational thought in their mind, doing it that way. They do it all the time to people. And then if you respond, then they'll give you another one. And if you don't respond, then they won't. So a lot of times, it's always about service in some way. So for instance, if you have this thought to serve in some way, that might be coming from one of these masters or Maitreya himself, like, hey, Robert, why don't you try this? And it's just a real simple little thought. And if you ignore it, they might give you one more and then that's it. And then if you don't, then they wait and wait and wait to see if you respond. And so a lot of times I think people miss it, and that kind of thing. But in terms of just direct contact where I can receive messages from them, no, I don't make any claims of that. And like I said, the people who can do that, even Jesus, even Krishnamurti, even Benjamin Creme, had to undergo training for a long time to get to where they could even do it effectively. So it's not something that naturally happens, because of, I think, the state of affairs of humanity. But it's dependent upon the person, not the master. The masters can communicate they can communicate from one planet to another. They can communicate with somebody in another solar system if they wanted to. So their level of communication knows no bounds. But where it stops is on our end. You know what I'm saying? Because most of us aren't, we're emotional, and that's the big thing. When you're focused on the emotions, it affects your reception of telepathy, and if you are more mentally focused, then it becomes easier for them to work with you in that way. And then they start, but even then, it's not something that everybody does, even as somebody who's mentally polarized, as they say in the Ageless Wisdom teaching. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's gonna, they're gonna work with them in that way. But like I said, most of the time, it's a little inspirational thought of some kind. Why don't you try this? Or why don't you do this? Or it might be a warning in some way. Like, I don't know if this came from one of the masters or not, but there was a time when I had this thought to not drive my car on the interstate. And it was very strong. It was a very strong warning. Don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go. And I, of course, was stupid enough to not listen to it. And I went on the interstate and a tire flew off a truck and hit the car. Bam! You know what I'm saying? So I don't, like I said, they might do it all the time, but it's not like I said, disciples like Mozart, they could hear music in their head from their masters. Shakespeare could receive enough accurate, unaltered, unfiltered information from these masters that he could write volumes of literature based off of that. Benjamin Creme could because of his training, could receive, these messages from his master or from Maitreya himself. But you have to be very, 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 very advanced to do those kind of things. But anyway, did I answer that question? Hopefully it did. But anyway, I'm running out of time, and it's always good to put up these videos, so keep the questions coming. And I thank everybody that's commented and asked questions. It definitely helps to keep the conversation going, and I look forward to more questions in the future. You guys have a great day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.